Ever wonder why so many people are fearful of the vaccine industrial complex, despite the leaps and bounds we've conquered since Edward Jenner discovered the smallpox vaccine in 1796? He would discover that milkmaids who previously caught cowpox did not catch smallpox. It wasn't without risk, though. He used a method called arm-to-arm inoculation. Yeah, you guessed it. He actually took the fluid from a cowpox blister to put in the arm of someone else to prevent smallpox. I know, gross, right? But this would lead to the discovery of the first vaccine in U.S. history. We've come so far since then. Or have we? While some fear detrimental side effects from vaccines, others have full confidence that our public health agencies have it all under control. Over the years, there have been a multitude of alleged cover-ups, big settlements, and injury payouts that can be everything but overlooked. Hey, welcome to Scandal Facts. Before we get all cozy by the fire, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, or I'm going to send Smeagol to steal all your left shoes, and me and Smeagol are like this. Let's take a look at our trusted Center for Disease Control.
A lead scientist at the CDC by the name of Dr. William Thompson made some disturbing claims about extremely biased practices within the agency over the years. He distraughtly discussed his findings with Congressman Bill Posey, and he would unknowingly be recorded telling Posey he was complicit in covering up early findings of autism in black boys which were linked to the MMR vaccine between the late 80s to the early 2000s. He compiled huge amounts of evidence and documents to prove his allegations, and he even recalculated the original research done by Dr. Frank DeStefano. But DeStefano would defend his studies by assuring the people's safety after a series of confirmative studies, quote-unquote, found no correlations to autism. But he was the head of epidemiology at the CDC, and it was his research that Thompson allegedly found an overwhelming amount of cover-up evidence substantiating his claims. Doesn't this sound a little suspicious?
But that's not even the worst part. Almost 2 years later, Thompson would retract those allegations in a futile attempt to give the MMR vax a better rep. This is after his disturbing claims went viral. While this raised a few eyebrows in the media and gave pro-vaxxers a smoking gun, it doesn't quite change the views of the people who lost their children due to vaccine malfunctions. Over the years, vaccine injuries and payouts of over $4 billion in damages since 1986.
Many people believe Dr. William Thompson was paid off or threatened by shadow phantoms to change his story. It is rather odd that the CDC investigated itself to debunk William Thompson's accusations in their candid responses, noting his incompetence. Of course, this is well after 30 plus years of his employment. This would explain why he fell off the internet map for a few years. But there's another key person, Dr. Brian Hooker, PhD, who was known for stating that his child was permanently damaged by vaccines. He stated in a publication that the significant autism rate dropped in Denmark after the preservative thimerosal was removed from the MMR vaccine. But get this, he also said that this information was intentionally omitted from the CDC's response to William Thompson's findings with thimerosal via infant vaccines, which had a direct correlation to ticks in boys. The CDC simply said there is no harm from thimerosal except redness and swelling at the injection site.
If this isn't enough to get your gears going, here are a few honorable mentions on the MMR vax connection to autism. Dr. James Jeff Bradstreet, who was deemed a crackpot doctor for his questionable and oftentimes dangerous approach to treating autism, was also found floating in the Broad River in North Carolina with a gunshot wound to the chest. Not long after he made the claims about the MMR vax's connections to autism. Another is Andrew Wakefield, a doctor who is also discredited with false evidence of the MMR vaccine and its connections to autism. Or so says the investigative journalist Brian Deere, who exposed the darker side of the anti-vax campaign. As it stands, Wakefield was supposedly twisting facts and omitting his alleged agenda to rake in the dollars under something called the Wakefield Protocol. Obviously, there's a lot of money to be made in the vaccine industry. I guess the question is, which side will you be on to get it? While many scandals and exposures may come to the surface, this still doesn't change the fact that thousands have been injured permanently from defective vaccines. Those numbers don't lie no matter how many smear campaigns come against whistleblowers.
At some point, critical thinking is necessary. We need more doctors and scientists with integrity who use the scientific method without bias or hidden agendas. After all, it's the people who matter, not the money, right? These are lead scientists and doctors. It almost feels like the CDC and its constituents are self destructing. This is almost as bad as the polio scare of 1955. You know, the one where Dr. Jonas Salk announced the safety of the polio vaccine, but Cutter Labs gave a defective batch to over 200,000 people, and it actually gave 40,000 polio. Yeah, you can't quite discredit this one. Americans are grateful for doctors like Albert Sabin, who developed the first safe oral polio vaccine in 1962. In any case, the events surrounding public health should have more effective regulations in place to ensure the safety and integrity of our public health agencies and the people they serve. It is a bit unfair that pharmaceutical companies will be given immunity if anyone is harmed by their vaccines or drugs. Yeah, you heard that right. U.S. Code Title 42, Chapter 6A, Part 2, Subpart B 300 AA-22 states, no vaccine manufacturer shall be liable in a civil action for damages arising from a vaccine-related injury or death associated with the administration of a vaccine after October 1st, 1988, if the injury or death resulted from side effects that were unavoidable even though the vaccine was properly prepared and was accompanied by proper directions and warnings.
This kind of begs the question, what are unavoidable injuries? And why would a vaccine be administered in spite of such a daunting result? This law was passed in 1988, the same year that William Thompson's research history dates for the MMR vaccine. Findings connected to autism. 2 years after the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Pretty close coincidence, huh? If vaccines are so safe, then why was the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program created? The VICP is no fault alternate to the traditional tort system.
Well, it provides compensation to people found to be injured by certain vaccines. Even in cases in which such a finding is not made, petitioners may receive compensation through a settlement. This program was established after lawsuits against vaccine manufacturers and healthcare providers threatened to cause vaccine shortages and reduce vaccination rates. The program began accepting claims in 1988. But this wasn't to ensure the people got what they deserved. It was strictly to keep pharmaceutical companies in business. Here are the VICP's objectives. 1. To ensure an adequate supply of vaccines. 2. To stabilize vaccine costs. And 3. To establish and maintain an accessible and efficient form for individuals found to be injured by certain vaccines. But here's another question. If vaccines are not so safe, why are we hearing less about chickenpox these days?
You've just been hit with scandal facts. Try answering some of the video questions, which we'll pin in the comment section. Don't forget to smash the like button and hit the subscribe bell. Wait a minute, let's rewind that. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for more scandal facts. Thanks for watching.